intros in just one second, but I wanted to ask a quick question. Did you know that the best way to create value in a private equity portfolio company is not through financial engineering? We all see the news, we all see these kinds of things, and we're so used to hearing about kind of cost cutting and restructuring balance sheets, and certainly they're important, but I think over the next 40 minutes, Crystal and I are going to share some research on three critical things that PE firms are doing with CRM and artificial intelligence. And it's going to change the way that you look at how CRM can accelerate value creation and how you can get the most out of your private equity relationship. And we're going to show you how you can do the same thing that these companies took a long time to learn in less time with Microsoft AI. Right, Crystal?
Mm-hmm. Yes, well said, Chuck.
Awesome. So let's do quick introductions. The most important one is Crystal. I'll let you go share some background about yourself.
Okay, then we're saving the best for last, I guess. My name is Crystal Ziegler. I am a dynamics seller here at Microsoft. So I work in the biz app space, specifically in CRM and customer engagement. So it's very nice to meet all of you. I work with a portfolio of portfolio companies. So this is a topic that we get to speak about often with our customers. And I'm so glad to have Chuck joining me here from congruentX. They have some great experience in the area. Chuck, I'll let you take it from here.
I'm delighted to. Thanks everybody for joining, and I am blessed to have Crystal as a partner in presenting on this topic. So I've been working in CRM since well, a long time. I've worked with several different CRM solutions, but have been working with Microsoft. We used to call it Microsoft CRM since 1.0, but so a long time in the CRM space, mostly a little bit in the enterprise space, but also a lot in the mid market, where we do see a lot of companies who, in order to grow, they have gotten investment from private equity and they want to get the most out of that. And CRM's a big part of that. So um, I serve at congruentX as the CEO, and I say that very intentionally. I serve the firm as the CEO, so try to be a servant leader. And we help companies get CRM right so they can grow and drive value. So can't wait to share a lot of what we've learned with you guys. So we're gonna just a little roadmap of what we're gonna go through is Crystal and I are gonna talk about the high level PE playbook around value creation, research on what portfolio companies are doing with CRM, some things we've built at congruentX using Microsoft AI to help companies accelerate fuel revenue, if you will, some tactics. And these are the three things that I mentioned. So taking the friction out of data collection, using AI to drive up win rates and saving sellers a bunch of time. And then we're going to talk about a fun topic, and I hope a lot of people will take away from this particular topic unit economics and how you can use it to create a more predictable revenue engine. We're going to share 2 or 3 examples of evidence from real clients, real portfolio companies, and some things you can do to get started, some resources you can use, and some things that congruentX and Microsoft will invest in to help you get started. Cool? Everybody good?
Sounds good.
All right. So as we alluded to in the introduction, more often than not today, private equity is focused not on the buy side of the transaction, but on value creation. So private equity is not looking for the house, the Adams family house on the street that needs a new paint and some work, and they're going to try to fix it up and then sell it. It's almost always now on the value creation. So they're really trying to help their portfolio companies realize their true potential. And a lot of times there's a big focus on revenue, and there's a big focus on implementing technology to make that revenue process predictable. And the problem we run into sometimes is the technology is well intentioned in the implementation for tech's sake, but people don't get the results they're looking for out of the technology. In fact, the top companies say they get almost $9 back for every dollar they spend on CRM. Yes, but on the flip side, about half companies aren't happy with the CRM. And that's not necessarily the tech's fault. It's the fault of the companies that help them implement it and just the approach. Let's say it that way. Okay. So I borrowed this slide from the super smart people at Winning by Design. And it's kind of a map based on where you are, if you're a portfolio company or if you're interested in portfolio companies in your growth stage. Your private equity partner might have a little different playbook to help you based on where you are, create value. So early on, they're going to help you a lot with product market fit, making sure that you can get your first 10 or 20 clients and make that repeatable. A little later, they're going to help you with what they call go to market fit, which is helping you learn how to sell your product at scale. And then it kind of goes on from there in terms of scaling up and expansion and things. Okay. Generally speaking, a lot of private equity firms are going to come in and help you with a great deal of focus on that revenue engine, whether it's go to market fit or scaling sales, things like that. And there's a good reason for that. Portfolio companies have operated, and you think about it, with a focus on their product or service as an engine. A lot of us that start companies have a passion, almost something that they're mad about, that they built their company around, and they know everything about their product or their service. And if you think about that, if you're a manufacturer, that person could tell you every detail about the plant. And you think about it, you think about the Elon Musk interviews. He's always in a factory looking down over, and I've been in a zillion factories, and it's that way. They look at their factory, the floor. They're looking for constraints. They know every detail about how much it costs to make this thing, where the constraints are in the factory, when it's going to come out the back door. But when it comes to revenue, at the stage we just talked about, a lot of times it's kind of quick. There's a lot of intuition, and I think this will close this time, and we're chasing after bad pitches, so to speak, using a baseball analogy. I'm thinking about that because that player signed up for quite a bit of money recently. And so one of the things that we want to accomplish today is to show you how the top firms are learning how to create predictable revenue engines, making the revenue the same predictable engine as their factory or service is. Okay. And so every private equity firm has smart people, and they have their own secret sauce and methodology to help drive value. But a lot of times there's a few things they tend to do in common is they'll either hire or bring somebody in as a leading revenue. So like a fractional CRO or a chief revenue officer, and that person's going to help the portfolio company focus their efforts on the most profitable customers. So some people say ideal client profile. At congruentX, we say high value customer, HVC. They're also going to develop a go-to-market strategy that makes sense in terms of aligning sales, service, and marketing all around that go-to-market for that high value customer, or ICP, ideal client profile. And broadly speaking, they're going to help develop some playbooks so that the sales team is consistent in finding those people, selling to those customers, and servicing those customers so we can scale. And a very, very, very big problem that comes up is when this CRO is working from bad data. It's almost like a coach that has to stay in the locker room and can't go tell the team that they're doing something wrong. And the team has to wing it. And that's why adoption is such a critical thing with CRM. And it's often the first thing that we need to work on with CRM. Right, Crystal?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you think about it, like a lot of CROs that are not fractional but full time in companies, they only get to stay in a company for about 18 months, and then they lose their role. And a lot of times it's not because they had a bad plan. They go have to make big promises to the board, but the board says, hey, we can't hire too many more people. But then and they build this plan to go out and help the sales team be more predictable, be send the best seller out on every call, but they just don't have the data to be able to coach people up. So they can't tell if their playbook is working or not. And that's where we think that and our research tells us that the highest performing portcos have solved for adoption, which lets them solve for these other things.
And that's so important, Chuck. To your point, IDC just recently released a study that said that 70% of companies feel that their CRM data isn't complete. And then over 90% believe that it degrades annually. So even if you have good data and good adoption one year, you have to have that rigor to keep going and have the high adoption maintained across your sales teams.
Yeah, being data driven is pretty important, and having a good AI partner is pretty good too, important too. And that's why we have Crystal on, because like literally I've bet my company on Microsoft. And my technology leader, Chris Cognetta, told me year and a half ago, hey, Microsoft is doing some amazing things with AI and we need to lean into it. And we have, and it's been a real blessing. So, Crystal, anything you want to share with us on that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have to say, I think you made a good bet. I might be a little biased there. But I'm going to draw your attention to the bottom part of the slide here. It's showing some revenue and R&D investments that various companies have made in the space. And I'm sure at this point, in everyone's mind, Microsoft is kind of synonymous with AI leadership. We've been really doing some amazing things this year. But one thing I want to point out here is this $27 million, or I'm sorry, $1 billion of R&D that Microsoft has committed to continuing to improve our products. And if you notice, that's actually larger than many of the other technology companies' market caps. So we're huge, and we're definitely doubling down on that because we believe that AI is going to be the next big change. What did we say? The software ate hardware, and now AI is eating software. So yeah,
It
it's an
is,
exciting
and
time.
what Chris Cognetta, our technical leader, always says is that he loves Microsoft's approach, because sometimes people get a little worried about AI, but Microsoft's approach is for AI to help you. It's your assistant that rides alongside you. It's your co-pilot, and they've done a good job with landing that message, and it's really what their approach is. Okay, so we're going to focus first on data collection, and I don't want you to think about it collection like the IRS. I want to think you to think of it as we're just going to take all the friction out of that. And one of the and Crystal mentioned a couple of these statistics is the our data is incomplete, and even the data that we have that's good is wrong after a year. So people move to other jobs, things like that. So what we learned in our research, and we spent a fair amount of time with this research, is the portfolio companies is they are data driven. They use data to win, and they keep their data in good shape, and they do an amazing job of collecting the data. They make that a priority, and we're going to drill into like literally how they do it. So one key learning that we figured out is that the way people consume data has changed. So at home, if I'm going to go for a walk, my Apple Watch says, sorry for bringing up other tech companies, but a lot of it works the same. Is if I'm going to go for a walk with my awesome puppy dogs, it says, hey, are you going for a walk? Do you want me to track it? But at work, a lot of times we give people these giant forms to fill out or try to hunt through for information in the name of this elusive 360-degree view. And it's well intentioned, but it's misguided because not always do we need a 360-degree view. We need context in the thinking about what the person is doing. Okay, so I want to give you a quick example. And there's some people on this call from congruentX who had a lot to do with helping this amazing client. And it's a real story. It's an amazing company. When we met them, they were called US Lumber. They are still a piece of them that's called US Lumber. They are referred to as specialty building products right now. They are a mid-market company. They have a pretty significant investment from Madison Dearborn. They've made a lot of acquisitions. Um, Before we met them, I'll say their CRM implementation stalled. Their consulting partner, yeah, they did what everybody did up until a couple years ago. They built big forms. Let's give the sales rep a 360-degree view, and they built these like 6.5, 7 foot long forms. It felt that long. And you think about they're in construction, they go to visit retail stores and lumber yards and things like that. They don't need a giant form. So we did it wasn't that long, a design thinking session. We brought in their kind of this cross-functional group of folks, and we looked at where the critical moments of truth in their process were and where was the friction. And our team ended up building low code power apps for this client that are it's kind of cool. It's it knows that you're at this client, almost like your Apple Watch. It's, hey, it looks like you're at Joe's Lumber or Home Depot store 3456, that kind of thing. So they got their first impact in pretty quickly. But this client has a special team, and they view CRM as not just a project, but a product. And they keep improving it, and the solution tells you that you're at this client. It gives you big buttons. It shows you all the key things about this client. And their average seller went from using this almost zero, and they use it about 60 times a day. 60 times a day. How many people know sellers use their CRM, this is an extension of their CRM. It talks to CRM, it talks to a data warehouse, and it talks to their ERP system. And they actually won Home Depot Innovation Partner of the Year, and this client says that this is a part of it. And this is our client and congruentX and Microsoft that did this together. So we couldn't be more proud of this team and what this client has accomplished. So let's talk now about how we can use another part of the Microsoft stack to do some really cool things. So we talked about the term Copilot. So this is this is a lot like our Apple Watch thing. So an email comes in, and the Apple Watch says, hey, looks like this might be from a customer or from a prospect. Do you want to track it? So if your Outlook has AI built in and it can do that, then tech starts to get easy. And by the way, here's some background information about this customer that you might want to consider in your response to them. And maybe I can help you create that response. And if it's not in your CRM, let's add it to your CRM, and we'll do it all right here in Outlook. And Microsoft calls this AI assistant Sales Copilot. Right, Crystal?
Yes, you keep catching me on mute, but yes, and I think one of the great things to point out here is it doesn't have to connect directly to Microsoft CRM. So, of course, I'm biased again. Dynamics is fantastic,
Hmm.
but I've used Salesforce before, and it's not a bad tool either. And the great thing about Sales Copilot is it's agnostic and can go either way. So it can help your CRM play better with your Microsoft stack, no matter what your CRM is.
Absolutely, it can. In fact, a lot of our clients use this with their existing Salesforce solution. We've been able to drive fantastic results. The
Mhm.
other thing that we do is have Teams meetings. So we talked about Outlook and emails coming in and things like that, but we have conversations with clients. And I was able to and blessed to have a chance to go visit a client in person yesterday, but I don't get to do that as much as I used to. There's lots of Teams meetings, and here's where Sales Copilot can help us as well. It actually can listen to the phone calls if you ask it to, and it tells everybody on the call that it's there. You can record those conversations, and you can use AI to get insights about those conversations. And since it also lives in Teams, if I want to talk to Crystal about an opportunity we're working on together, or to Tasha or Chris, we can talk about that potential opportunity or that client and put our best foot forward and working with that client and work better as a team. Now, I love that. And now they're even allow you to spin up these little digital sales rooms where it's kind of a place we can work together and co-create value together. And finally, and this is all the other stuff is amazing. This is where it really helps, is that it's going to automatically enter that data in our CRM with no work. It just goes there. So we've got good data to work from in the future.
Talk about
Yes.
keeping your data fresh. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in CRM for over 20 years, and this is, in my opinion, one of the biggest things that's happened in CRM since I've been working in it. And I think Scott Bird's on this call, a couple other people that would probably say, and you don't have to replace your CRM to do this. You can work with the CRM that you have, as Crystal said. So best learnings, best practices, tips, however you want to say it on this. Um, and these are related to portcos. If you're not a portco, there's still great tips for thinking about how to collect data. Is don't always focus on building big forms and the name of the 360-degree view. We're not um, downing that approach, but just it doesn't mean you need everything on the form. Think about what's the task or jobs to be done is the actual methodology that people use, that the person is trying to do at really key moments in working with their buyers and their customers, and then figure out how to take the friction out of collecting that data and delivering back contextual insights. And we use that word really intentionally. So, what's that person doing? Share back contextual insights. And we use the phrase my good friend JC Quintana says is we want to make it functional, help the person get what they need, make it easy, and even make it enjoyable. When we say that, we want it to make it work like the technology we have at home. Okay. Okay. To our second use case. And this, now that we made collecting technology really easy, so people have been trying to solve for this for 20 years, and we just showed you how to make it easier. Let's talk about how we can implement our strategy and our playbooks to drive better results using AI. And this is legit. Save a rep 23 hours per month per rep. First, we're going to share some research. We did a lot of research. Some of it was good, some of it was challenging, and we're going to share both. Companies have spent a lot of money, actually about $80 billion on technology every single year. So that's almost a $500 billion over the last 5 years that they spent on tech. And I think those of us who have an inbox who's have signed up for some kind of a webinar or something, we won't sell your name, by the way. I get so many automatically generated, unpersonalized emails. We're all getting them. That is up. This says 41%, but I saw some other research that says it's up by 10x. But literally every other metric is right now, and this includes portcos, going the wrong direction. Win rates are going the wrong direction. The number of meetings with clients is going the wrong direction. Quota attainment is going in the wrong direction, and sales cycles is going in the wrong direction, kind of across the board. But there are lots of examples where people are doing the right thing and getting the right result. And we'll start with a real example we'll share first, and we'll talk to you more about companies like those guys and what they're doing. So we want to hone in on 3 examples and kind of make this super actionable. So not solve for everything, solve for just a few things that will make impact for the folks on this phone call and your firms. And here's what the research says too, from a private equity perspective, is where you can improve: before the call, after the call, and before the call, during the call, and after the call. Sorry. So right now we're seeing that about 82% of buyers say that sellers are not prepared. Very scary. In addition to that, about 50% of the time sellers think, yeah, I wasn't ready for that call. So they're almost aligned. But we can help with that. And during the call, we've also learned that the quality of the questions we ask is kind of been on the decline, because we get our day stacked up with call after call after call, and people are not ready for the call and they're not asking better questions. So we found that about 74% of the time you can get an increase if the rep asks 11 questions on the discovery call. And you can double your close rate when you ask questions about the impact of the customer's decision. Like, well, what happens if you don't do this? Or what happens if you do this? Or about critical events. So is there a funding round coming up? Is there this thing coming up or that thing coming up? So those things, and a lot of times you get the note you get back from the sales rep is, yeah, had a good call with Jennifer. Well, I don't know what questions we're asking her. So if we can use AI, it can help us. And then after the call, we learned that if you send an email within half an hour, you get twice as high of response rates, 4 times the conversion rate, and 21% shorter sales cycle time. And by using AI to help you craft it, you can save 23 hours, 23 hours per seller every single month. And that's on top of about 4 to 6 hours that Sales Copilot saves you in just admin stuff of entering data in CRM. So there's a really tangible benefit, both in terms of saving people time and in terms of the quality of the work that people are doing. So let's talk a little more about how that works. So using Sales Copilot, you can just ask it, hey, can you help me prepare for my meetings today? Literally, that's what you can say. And it will help you get ready for the meetings with data that lives in your CRM and your Outlook. Our firm, congruentX, on top of that, has built our own add-on to Sales Copilot. We call it Dialogue Prime. Oh, it's going a lot faster than I was hoping it would. That's okay. It will help you have better calls with our clients and run our playbook. So interestingly, the during a call, a lot of this, there's lots of sales engines for conversation intelligence out there, and those engines actually don't know the difference between. They think a call is a call is a call. Well, there are different kinds of calls. Discovery calls, you ask lots of questions, and calls that are presentation calls, you're going to talk more. So, and some people use sales methodologies like winning by design or MEDIC or solution selling. you can embed those methodologies in Dialogue Prime to help. Let's see if I can get this thing to go backward. And so we've all, in our solution, we've also added, there's some automation there that I didn't see. We've added external data that helps you look inside of CRM and third-party data sources to look for clients that are actually fit your ideal client profile. Make sense? So now let's talk about a real company, how the real company is using it. This is our client, SRB Capital. They help companies get wage reimbursements from the IRS. And they use some intelligence on their end to help clients look at their data to see if they qualify for funding from the IRS. And they're growing really fast, and they were finding that as they scaled, they were getting a drag on the time that their sellers were spending entering data in CRM. And they're also spending a bunch of time ramping up new sellers. So the cool thing is they would tell you that Sales Copilot has helped them with both. It's taking the friction out of entering data, and it's at the same time improving their ability to perform on calls with their clients. Okay? And these are some real stats that we found in our research that happen when you get Sales Copilot right. So our tip is to use AI with Sales Copilot and Dialogue Prime. You don't have to build it. It's there. Those are solutions from Microsoft and congruentX that can help you take the friction out of collecting data and then put your methodology into driving success. Help your revenue leader to put their playbooks forward. Okay? And this is a fun one. We're going to use AI to collect private equity relevant data. Private equity firms in many cases use unit economics. Does anybody know what the term unit economics means? Give me a thumbs or thumbs down. It's okay if you don't. I'm looking over here. I see a few. So it basically is taking your direct revenues and costs of a particular business and measuring it on a per unit, whether it's a customer order, something like that. So kind of going back to our manufacturing example, our manufacturer who knows everything about their shop floor, they're looking down on it. They know the one machine is the slowest machine and it can slow the whole factory down. All those same principles apply to revenue, but people don't know it. So that same manufacturer often doesn't know how much it costs to acquire a new customer and what that customer is worth. And what we've learned is about a fourth of private equity backed companies collect this data and use it right now. Only a fourth. And our research is telling us that the companies that are using it are seeing higher growth rates, higher profitability rates, and creating enterprise value twice as fast as the other companies. So we think this is going to be really, really huge in the private equity space. And that's why congruentX has invested in building this into Dynamics 365. And we've attached AI to it, and we call it AI fueled revenue. It's our accelerator for AI fueled revenue. We're Avi and I spent a lot of time with a group out of Denver, and they did some research with anyway, I'll think of the people who do the set-top box stuff. But they said 2,400 companies they sampled, none used their CRM to collect the unit economics data. It was all in spreadsheets and all over the place. And they said that was a huge constraint. So I want to share a little bit more about the way the folks at Winning Design help you visualize that. And we all know what a funnel looks like in a pipeline, but we make, as a firm, most companies do, as much once someone is a client than they do before they're a client. So we should look at both sides. So they call it a bow tie funnel. And so they look at they look at the data across the customer's buying cycle and their adoption and success cycle, and they look at it across three dimensions. One is the volume in each phase, like what are the number of units, whether it's orders, customers, etc. The second is velocity, is how long do they stay in that stage, and third is um, the conversion, like which ones went from one stage to the next. And that's almost like a product moving through the shop floor of a manufacturing plant. That makes sense? There's a lot over here on the side that when you get these slides you can look at, but just think of it that way. And we help you track all this stuff. So here's some examples of where you might decide to see this. The average time to customer move from lead to customer is 60 days. Average time to move from MQL to customer is 6, and then average time to move from opportunity to customer is 44 days. Those are important things. And we actually send a little report to VPs of sales, sales leaders on their phones. And like you could look at this one and see that this sales leader, man, I have my deals are spending an average of 3 weeks in or less time in the develop stage than the other stages, but they're getting stuck in close. So are we spending not enough time understanding what our client's problem is, and that's causing us to get hung up in the last stage of the process? That visualization really, really is helpful. So here's another example of solving for things across the entire funnel. So imagine here's and we're going to share some benchmarks with you guys. Here's some examples across each stage where a company goes and looks at, okay, I'm going to improve the front end of my funnel with more leads with better marketing. I'm going to implement playbooks for better lead qualification. I'm going to improve sales conversations um, with conversation intelligence. And instead of me going from 100 leads to um, $12,000 worth of revenue, I still actually get 100 leads. But because I do a better job through my revenue engine, it turns into $25,200 per customer, which the number, multiply that times the number of customers, and it gets to be a lot of money. So you can kind of solve for your revenue engine at each place, almost like a manufacturer does with their plant. I'm going to take a breath and see what you guys think of that. Does it make sense?
It's exciting.
Does it make sense that nobody ever put this in CRM before? No, it does not. The good news is you have it now. This is something that almost every private equity firm talks about, and it sometimes causes friction with the private equity portfolio company and the sponsors and the stakeholders, because it's almost like you're speaking two different languages. They're asking for customer acquisition cost, and we've never tracked that before. We don't think that way. So having this built into your CRM can really, really advance those conversations. And as we said, the companies that do this, by and large, have big results from doing it. Okay? Next steps, right, Crystal?
Mm-hmm.
So we covered a lot. We covered how you can use Microsoft AI to get your data in CRM. If you get your data in CRM, according to the stats that Crystal said, you're top 10. If you do nothing else but have good data in your CRM, you're in the top 10% already of this giant private equity portco market. Next, we talked about how we can help your managers and your leaders drive consistency and drive those plays out into the field like a coach does in a sport, so they can deliver better marketing, sales, and services experiences. before, during, and after interactions. We said, remember? Okay. And last, we talked about how to use your data to see your revenue engine visually and to solve for constraints across your revenue engine. So just those three things gets you, the first one gets you into the 90%, and then we start getting to the best of the best of the best when we do those other three things. Okay? So I'm going to ask you a question. That's not me when I was a baby. I had a big round head like Phil Collins and just a couple sprigs of hair. But
Love it.
so here's my question. How many people are excited about what we covered today? Can you do a thumbs up or a raise your hand or something in the chat? How many people like it, but it's new and maybe a little overwhelmed because we covered a lot? So Crystal and I have been looking at this stuff for a long time. We want to put ourselves in your shoes and and think about where you're sitting. So is it okay if we spend about 5 minutes going over how you can learn more? Yes, give me thumbs. Yes, Crystal shaking yes. Thumbs up. Okay, that's good. If you all said no, we would be ending. Okay. So we got a couple things you can do here. First, you can we're going to share this in the form of a research report with a lot of the details that Crystal and I kind of skimmed over. We're going to, and you can get it right now. If you scan that little code, I'm pointing over here. That's where my monitor is. If you look at the, if you can go right now and do a ROI for your organization. You can enter how many salespeople you have, what's your industry, all that stuff, and it'll give you an anticipated return on investment. So it's a good starter. We also have 2 webinars coming up. One is on what the top portfolio companies are doing to get 20% more value creation with unit economics. So we're going to drill into more of this topic, like customer acquisition cost, lifetime value. And then we're going to have another one on the baselines. So to see how you compare your benchmarks versus those. In addition, if you want to cut to the front of the line, you can sign up for an envisioning lab. And because you're working with Crystal from Microsoft and with congruentX, this is normally like a consulting thing, but we're offering it for free to portfolio companies as our mutual investment. And think of it as a mini version of what we did with our amazing client at US Lumber. Literally, we bring the people, cross representatives from revenue team, from the IT team, from users together. We talk about their processes. We talk about where there's friction in the processes, and we identify solutions with Microsoft AI and low code and CRM that can turn that friction to fuel, if you will. And we're going to give you a blueprint of what to do. So, some ideas of some solutions that can help you, a blueprint of what to do, and a report on the impact of what the solution can do in your particular enterprise around your business case. And I think Tasha put a thing up, and this is what we do in the lab. But I think in the last thing, if you want to grab a screenshot of the one below, that's where you can sign up for an envisioning lab. So you can do the sales co-pilot here, the envisioning lab here, or you can just join us for the next webinars. So to get in touch with us, you can contact Crystal Ziegler, Microsoft Guru, AKA Business Applications Solutions Executive, myself, Chuck Ingram, or Scott Bird, who's our sales director at congruentX, also a guru. Any questions while we have just a couple minutes at the end? I'm going to try to see the chat here.
We're so excited that everyone was able to join us today. We recognize that there are lots of companies out there that have some type of funding or PE firm involvement, but this topic is one that doesn't get talked about a whole bunch. So it's a challenge for people across the organization, and we are here to help. So please use those email addresses and reach out. We'd love to help answer your questions.
Yep. And reach out with any questions. Use the tools we have. We also have an AI fueled revenue tool. If you go to aifueledrevenue.com, there's a tool there that you can use that's a little more complicated and deep than the Sales Copilot. You can use that, and you can keep coming to these webinars, and you can call us. So lots of ways we can work together. All right.
Go get CRM right.
Let's go get CRM right for portfolio companies. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. Happy holidays.